Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy. We're back with some more NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for both FanDuel and DraftKings for tonight's Thursday single-game showdown slate between the Rams and the Patriots. Probably my favorite matchup of all time. In this video, we'll talk about some top plays for both FanDuel and DraftKings, talk about low-risk and high-risk lineup construction strategies, and just some general advice to help get you to the top of your contest leaderboards. Before we get started, go ahead and click that subscribe button below. Get access to all of our videos as soon as they're released here on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Any questions you have about this slate, you can always ask us in our Discord channel, or you can just comment below and we'll get back to you before the slate locks at 8:20 p.m. Eastern tonight. So I said this is my favorite matchup of all time. Obviously, this is the matchup where I won the solo $1 million in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. So looking to recapture that magic again tonight. A little bit different matchup from that game where the total was like 56 points. Now the total for this matchup in 2020 is around 44, 45 points. Rams are about a 6-point favorite. I think 5.5 points as the time of this recording. So a little bit different betting environment than it was when these two teams met back in the Super Bowl 2019. So let's jump into it. Let's talk from a low risk perspective first. And again, low risk are your 50-50s, your double ups, your head to heads. We get this question a lot. If you haven't read our ultimate guide, the concept of low risk versus high risk may be unfamiliar. Low risk essentially means that roughly half the field doubles their money in the contest type. So you're looking for high floor plays just to get you across that 50% cash line. So how we normally do that in showdown contests is to get both quarterbacks, the two main running backs, and if we get those four core players in a low risk lineup, generally we have access to all of the touchdowns in the game, which is a pretty good way to get into the top 50% of a low risk contest. So tonight we're looking Jared Goff, Cam Newton, the two highest priced players on the slate, at least on DraftKings. The same goes for FanDuel as well. Let's scroll up. Yep, Cam just a little bit more expensive than Goff here. And if we look at the backfield situations, it may look messy on first glance with the Patriots having Damian Harris and James White and Sonny Michel. And if you look over to the Rams side, they have the triple-headed backfield of Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. But I think the lead back situations are pretty clear here. As long as the game doesn't get out of control, which is what we're aiming for in a low-risk contest. We're not playing for outlier situations. We're playing for the most likely outcomes. And in those situations where the game stays within 10 points most of the time, then Damian Harris is going to get most of the work. Not a ton in the passing game, but almost all the rushing attempts for the Patriots. If we look here, just look at Damian Harris the last couple of games. Very easy. 22, 11, 14, 16 rushing attempts. Only one touchdown in that span. A little unlucky from that regard. But Damian Harris is going to be the workhorse on the ground for the Pats. And then on the Rams side, Cam Akers, we joked about this in our podcast this week about how Sean McVay always wants to get Cam Akers more involved, and he finally has. The last couple of weeks, he had 21 carries last week, and if you look at the last 3 games in particular, he has 35 rushing attempts compared to just 32 for the other two running backs combined, Brown and Henderson. So Akers certainly the lead back here, and likely to lead the team in fantasy scoring from the running back position. So these two guys are the guys we want to get in. So if we try to just get in, if we just look one of the quarterbacks in the captain spot, Harris, Akers, that leaves us with 3K left per player. We could potentially make this work, and I'll tell you why here in a second. The other way we like to go on DraftKings, if we don't like the final 2 spots having just a little bit of salary left over, is just putting all these guys in the flex spot and then filling in with a non-traditional captain. What does that mean? Kicker, defense, a value play to help fit all 4 of these guys in and have better, higher floor plays to go with them. So 2 ways to approach it. The reason you may be able to put Goff or Cam, whoever your preference is tonight, in the captain spot, and let's put this back up here, is because for whatever reason, on this slate, the DraftKings salary gurus priced Damiere Byrd, the Patriots' number 2 receiver, 20% targets, air yards, whatever it may be, at just $800. I don't know why, but putting him in and then leaving $5,300 left per salary will likely be a popular move, and I can see why people would do this. I don't know why he's priced at $800. Going to be pretty popular. If we go over to FanDuel, it's a lot more difficult. They priced up both Akers and Damian Harris. So if we look here, get Cam, Jared Goff, Now we try to get Akers and Harris. That leaves us with just 4K left per player. Obviously, we can't fit in a fifth player with that salary, so it makes it pretty tough. And for that reason, we'll likely want to avoid low risk contests on FanDuel. The alternative here, obviously, is dropping down from, say, Harris to James White or Akers to someone like Malcolm Brown. None really feel that great, so best off just avoiding low risk contests on FanDuel tonight. But the reason you're probably here, the high risk contests, the contests that pay out 20% or less of entrants, the top heavy payouts, that's what everyone wants to play in DFS. Low total game generally means we're looking towards running backs at the captain spot. And we have two teams that want to run the ball. Now these players become even more attractive at the captain and MVP spots. So while Jared Goff and Cam Newton especially on FanDuel, will be particularly popular at the MVP spot, I think, and our model thinks, that we can get leverage tonight by playing the running backs at MVP. So if you're making just one or two lineups or just a couple of lineups, you could probably just use Akers and or Harris at your MVP spot on FanDuel. If you're making a bunch of lineups and you want to get into deeper combinations, you could use Henderson. There's no guarantee that Akers gets full workload, and Henderson's going to be way lower owned than Harris, or way lower owned than Akers, especially at MVP. Or you could go down a little more, James White, if this is a passing game script. Obviously, only half-point PPR here on FanDuel, but White had a 2-touchdown game a couple of games ago, and if he gets 8 or 9 catches, that still racks up the points. So another way. The other route you could go here, because of concentrated volume, is Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Both these guys seeing basically 10-plus targets per game. Easily could be the optimal MVP in that regard. The key takeaway here is, although we generally recommend quarterbacks as MVPs, and although they're likely going to be popular tonight, we don't think that's the route to go. We think we would go with the positional players, and the same applies especially on DraftKings. We go over here, where Goff is 11K, Cam Newton is 10.6K. We can get PPR monsters like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, or these two running backs literally just drop down one tier. Don't have to get too crazy and play guys like Harris or Akers at MVP, or captain, sorry. Let's get Harris in here. Something like this to start, or Akers, and if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you could also use James White or Dale Henderson in that regard as well. So I think it's a pretty straightforward slate. Low risk contests look particularly easy on DraftKings compared to FanDuel. And then for high risk contests, I think we could have a very limited captain or MVP pool, look towards the running games, and just load up on those combinations. And you got to figure, if Cam Akers does pretty well, that means he's getting a lot of carries. It means the Rams likely have the ball a lot, which means the Rams defense is probably doing pretty well, highly correlated with the Cam Akers. Same with Damian Harris. If they're running the ball a ton, that likely means the Patriots defense is keeping the ball out of Jared Goff's hands or forcing turnovers. So I would be inclined, and this is probably a popular approach, but if you're playing Harris or Akers, one of the first things I would do, especially if I'm making just one or two lineups, put in that defense with them, pair it up, maybe the kicker as well, get a fully correlated lineup. Again, don't feel required to, but that's certainly the next correlation step when putting a running back, especially two like Akers and Harris, who aren't very reliant on their skills in the passing game. Having that defense correlated with them certainly boosts the ceiling of the entire lineup. So for more detailed thoughts on every player on this slate, you want to check out the Daily Plug, occupyfantasy.com. That'll post by 4 p.m. Eastern today, Thursday. Talk about every single player and then specific lineup strategies, low risk and high risk contests for FanDuel and DraftKings. Check out our Occupy model, which ranks every player on the slate for both sites, as well as having projected ownership at the captain, MVP, and flex positions for both sites. And I think that's it for you to check out. Just go ahead and click that subscribe button below before you get out of here. That way you get notified when our videos, when they're released. Give us that thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. Lets us know that we should continue to make these types of videos. Any questions you have, just hop in the comments below. I'll certainly answer them before the slate locks tonight. So Brian Jester for Occupy Fantasy. Appreciate you listening. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.